What's up, everyone? It's me, the Osprey. Before we get started with this review, I'd like to give a shout out to my friend Jason at GameQuest in Spring Hill, Florida. If you're ever around there, be sure to check out their shop. They've got a great selection of retro games. Here we have Nintendo's original Game Boy, first released in 1989. It is one of the best-selling video game systems of all time, and it has quite a huge library of games. The original Game Boy has a D-pad here. We've got our start and select buttons, A and B buttons. We've got the battery power indicator light. We have our on and off switch. We have, I think this is for an AC adapter if you have one. Here we have the contrast switch, which makes the games lighter or darker. We also have an external link connector cable port here. We have our volume controller, and we have our speaker here, our headphone jack, and it also takes 4 AA batteries. So let's compare the original Game Boy to my Game Boy Advance. As you can see here, it's a much larger, much thicker and beefier system, and it's definitely a lot heavier. So here are the games I have for my original Game Boy. We have Tetris, the game that was originally packaged with the Game Boy if you bought it brand new back in the day. We also have Nemesis, the Game Boy port of Konami's Gradius. We also have Pac-Man over here too. Now these 3 games were the games I bought from Jason at GameQuest. And these 3 games here, Super Mario Land, Wario Land, and Toy Story 2, I borrowed from my friend Evan Geistfeld, who composes the music for my videos. Have you ever wondered why the original Game Boy games have this weird wedge here at the corner of the cartridge? The reason behind it was when you turn the game on here, that little plastic piece that's attached to the on and off switch over there comes out, and it prevents you from being able to remove the cartridge accidentally while you're playing the game so it doesn't mess up your system. When it turns off, that piece disappears, and now you can pull the game out of your system. So let's fire this thing up and play it. I love that noise. The original Game Boy does show off its age with its green and black Texas Instruments calculator style graphics, but the games for it are still very fun to play and very engaging too. Tetris is definitely one of my favorite puzzle games of all time. And right here I'm playing Nemesis. I love 2D shooters, just like Mark from Classic Game Room Reviews. I do apologize for any weird shadows in any of the clips because it is hard to record since the Game Boy doesn't have a backlight. But Super Mario Land is still fun to play and has a lot going on in the background. And Wario Land is probably one of the funniest games I've played on the original Game Boy so far. And of course, it's hard to talk about retro games without mentioning Pac-Man at least once. Can I get that orange? Yes, there's some vitamin C. The last game we're going to be looking at is Toy Story 2. It plays similar to the first Toy Story game for the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo. Check this out right here. Nice! That wasn't flying, that was falling with style. And since the Game Boy is a portable gaming system, you probably want a carrying case for it. It's obviously too big to fit in the front pocket of my Game Boy Advance case, since it's made for the Game Boy Advance and not the original Game Boy. But you can get something like this Lululemon pouch. You can put your Game Boy here, and with these little pockets here, you can bring some extra games with you. But I'm sure a lot of us know that these Lululemon pouches will set you back about $40. So if you're buying something just to put your Game Boy in, you're probably better off just getting this little cheap $12 knockoff Lululemon from Walmart. Does just as good a job for a lot less. Now this is the way to retro game on the go. So Nintendo's original Game Boy is still awesome after all these years. But unfortunately, due to supply and demand, the original Game Boy, the Game Boy Color, and the Game Boy Advance, and all the other variants of the Game Boy have gone up in value quite a bit. You'd pay almost as much for them today as if you would have bought them brand new back when they came out, but they are a good investment and they are nice additions to your retro game collections. You can still find most of the games for the original Game Boy, the other Game Boys, for a good price, but there are some rare games that can be expensive. So I hope you liked this video, and don't forget to like and subscribe.